is the way he lived. That is what he leaves us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Mikey's Saturday Nightmares. All right, thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys have enjoyed the last few videos I've put out. Thank you for the views on those. And we're going to get started with today's episode of Mikey's Saturday Nightmares, and we're going to talk about a movie that came out on May 9th of 1980. And it was the first in a illustrious franchise that is still relevant to this day, in my opinion, because I'm a huge fan. And, I don't care, some of the sequels were subpar, but it's all in the campy fun of a slasher film that makes them great. They have a cult following that is beyond rapport. And we're talking about Friday the 13th, directed by Sean S. Cunningham. And he directed such films as Spring Break. He directed Deep Star 6. And he directed a film called Manny's Orphans. Now, I have not seen Spring Break, and I have not seen Manny's Orphans. But I have seen Deep Star 6, and it's a pretty decent film, too. It came out in 1989. And it's a pretty decent film. It's all on its own. Okay, so this film stars the great Betsy Palmer, who plays Pamela Voorhees. And she's also played in such films as Still Not Quite Human. Now, that was a made-for-TV film about an android living with a family. It was a pretty fun Disney movie. She also played in Fear 2, which I looked it up, and it's either been released as Fear Resurrection or Fear Hell Night. Either way, you'll get the same film. And I have seen that, years ago. It was okay. I mean, the first one, I like the first one a lot better, I think, if I remember correctly. I like the first one a lot better. But it was an okay film. And she also played in Penny Dreadful in 2005. Now, I don't think that was a series. I think that was like an actual movie that came straight out to video. And it's got to deal with the supernatural hauntings and that kind of thing. And I have not seen that. And the film also stars Adrienne King. Sorry about that. Who plays the role of Alice. And she also played in such films as Butterfly Room, Killer Therapy, and Dead Girl in Apartment 3. Now, I've seen none of those. Although, when I looked it up, Killer Therapy does look like something I'd enjoy watching. It looks like a slasher film. It may not be, but it looks like it. So I might have to check it out. And lastly, the film also stars the great and wonderful Kevin Bacon, who plays the character of Jack. And he's also played in such great films as Tremors, which is one of my favorite films of all time. Maxine, which is part of the X series. If you've seen any of the X, if you've seen X or Pearl, Maxine is part of that, and he has a role in that. And he also played in X-Men First Class. Now, I can't remember what his character's name was in X-Men First Class, but he was one of the baddies. All right, and the plot for this film is a group of teenage camp counselors attempt to reopen an abandoned summer camp with a tragic past, but are stalked by a mysterious, relentless killer. All right, here we go. This is the trailer for Friday the 13th. Here we go.
I've had this dream. I'm in a thunderstorm, and it's raining really hard. It sounds like pebbles when it hits the ground. I try to block out the sound with my hands, only it doesn't work. It just keeps getting louder and louder. And the rain turns to blood.
It's just a dream.
Are you crazy?
We ain't gonna stand for no weirdness out here.
Hello?
Help me!
Did you know that a young boy drowned here?
Help me!
His name was Jason, and today is his birthday.
Help me!
This place is cursed. You're doomed if you stay here.
Help me! It's not funny anymore! Not funny at all! They're both dead. And he's still there.
All right, there was the trailer for Friday the 13th. This movie had a budget of $550,000. That was all they had. By the time it was done, it grossed in USA and Canada over $39,754,601. It was one of those films that, in its time when it first came out, was slated as one of the most scariest films for that time period at that time. And I mean, the special effects in it, the kills were not graphic by today's standards, but by 1980 standards, they were pretty graphic. Tom Savini did an incredible job with the makeup and the special effects and all that stuff. And it wasn't CGI, ladies and gentlemen. It was practical effects. Okay. Now, this film, it was filmed on location at Camp Nobi Bosco in Blairstown, New Jersey. I'd love to go there just to see the camp and everything, but, you know, it is what it is. Betsy Palmer, who played Pamela Voorhees, only did the movie because she needed a new car. She read the script and called the movie a piece of shit. I mean, she had no idea that the cult following that was going to come because of this film, this franchise that was sparked because of her, you know, her role in this film. I mean, that's something that I'd say happens quite a bit. A actor or actress reads a script and they're like, oh, that's a piece of crap. But then it turns out to be a fantastic movie with a great following and a cult following, and it goes on, and, you know, then they end up kicking themselves in the butt because they didn't play a part in it. But you know, it happens. It happens. Tom Savini was one of the first crew members on board because the producers liked his work on effects for Dawn of the Dead in 1978. Tom Savini is synonymous when it comes to effects because he's just that damn good. Pardon my French, but he is. He's not Triple H, but he's just that damn good when it comes to special effects. So yeah, why not? I mean, you want to put a slasher film out there and you want to make it the best that you can, then you hire the best, or you try to, you know. This was the 18th highest grossing film that year, facing competition from films like The Shining, Dress to Kill, The Fog, and Prom Night. Now, The Fog is one of my favorite John Carpenter films. I mean, it's a classic all on its own, but for Friday the 13th to do that well on a budget that it had, even 18th is a plus. I mean, it's incredible. Um, Considering probably, I would say probably, I haven't looked it up and don't quote me on that, but I would say The Fog and movies like Prom Night and the other film probably had a bigger budget than what Friday the 13th had. I couldn't swear to it. I'd have to look it up to be sure. But I would say they probably had a bigger budget. And for a smaller film, to not have a big budget do that well is incredible, incredible. Um, Friday the 13th demonstrated the importance of setting the tone in horror films. That is why I think that is why uh, movies like Annabelle and all these movies that James Wan puts out, directs, produces, or whatever. He is one of those that knows how to set the tone in a horror film, and that's why the jump scares work. Um, and that's why you get that build up of suspense and a terror, and then sometimes you get a jump scare, and sometimes you don't. You realize you got all worked up over nothing, and then bam, he hits you with it. That's just the way James Wan is able to do, and I think a lot of that is what happens with this film. I mean, this was one of those films that it set the tone throughout the whole film. You were constantly wondering who the killer was. You were constantly seeing views from the killer's perspective. And it was fantastic. Fantastic. It made the audience feel like they are being stalked to the creepy music. Crude photography and graphic depiction of the kills all blend together to form a classic piece of film history, without a shadow of a doubt. Now, if you watch it today, you may not be impressed with it because of the way horror has progressed with the kill scenes and the storylines and that kind of thing. You may not, you may look at it and be like, why? How did people get scared of this crap? How did people get so scared over this film? You have to put yourself back in 1980 when it first came out. That's how people got scared. It was something that I don't want to say they hadn't seen before, but it was presented to them in a way that it forced them to be afraid. Just by the like I said, the photography, the way the tone of the film was set up, the way the music came in is set up. It set everything. It set everything up, and the depiction of the graphic kills, thanks to Tom Savini, the kills were fantastic. It may have been panned by critics upon release, but since then it's become one of the most influential and famous horror films, a franchise containing one of the horror's most iconic villains. Now, you can't do that if you don't have a base following, and this movie, I mean, like I said, it's an iconic film. It's an iconic slasher film. There is no way that you can go back into the annals of time, back in history, over the years, and not see something about Friday the 13th since it came out in 1980. It is such an iconic film, and it transcends time because it has such a huge cult following. It is one of my favorite franchises. I do enjoy Nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy Krueger. I do enjoy those films. But just something about the way the Friday the 13th films were done just sucked me in, and I've enjoyed them ever since. I'll watch them over and over and over. Every Friday the 13th, I'll watch at least one, if not have a marathon and go through all of them. I mean, it's just one of those films that I could sit and just put on, even if it's just playing in the background. I still stop whatever I'm doing when a scene comes up that I want to watch. I mean, it's just one of those films that you can continuously watch over and over again, and I never get tired of it. I really don't. A lot of people do. A lot of people don't like them as much as I do, but I love Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th is one of my favorite franchises. Like I said, I mean, they made Friday the 13th a series. I've got the complete set of that on DVD, and I watch it a lot too. It was a fantastic show. It didn't have really a good showing because it came on so late at night when it did air here in in West Virginia. As a kid, when I was growing up, it came on Friday nights at like 12 or 1 o'clock at night. So, I waited for the weekends just so I could be out of school and not have to worry about getting up early to go to school and set up and watch Friday the 13th, the series. And then, I'd watch on Saturdays, I'd watch USA Saturday Nightmares. Well, first it was at noon. It was Commander USA's Groovy Movies. I'd watch that. Go outside and play, whatever, throughout the day. 8 o'clock, glued to the TV, USA Network, USA Saturday Nightmares. I'd watch that, and then USA Up All Night with Rhonda Shear. I'd watch all stayed up all night Saturday night watching those movies. It was just, it was a great time for me as a kid, getting to watch these classic films growing up. I mean, there was, Friday the 13th films that came out in the 80s. They would show those every once in a while. Movies like Up the Creek with Ralph Macchio. It was one of those kind of American Pie-ish comedies from back in the 80s. It was a great film. I mean, just all these films that I watched because of shows like Up All Night and, USA Saturday Nightmares and Commander USA's Groovy Movies. So this one will forever hold a place in my heart. It was one of the very first, if I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken. There may have been one other one, but I don't think there was. This was the very first slasher film that I ever saw. The very first one. And I think that's why it's so special, because it was the very first one. That could be why. Excuse me. That could be why it's so special to me, but it is. It's very special to me, and forever will be. So, but it's a great film. If you haven't seen it, give it a watch. If you have watched it, which I'd say a lot of people have, let me know down in the comments below what your favorite kill was, what you thought of the film. Do you think it, truly stands the test of time, or is it just one of those that, has a cult following that just kind of lingers out there? In my opinion, it's an iconic film. It's a great film. I enjoy it so much. But like I said, that could be just because it was my first slasher film. But with that being said, we're going to end the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed today's discussion. Tune in on Tuesday for Mikey's Movie Rampage. And then, of course, on Thursday, there will be a classic movie buffet theater. And then I'll be back here again next week on Saturday for Mikey's Saturday Nightmares. Now, next Saturday, we will be doing a viewer-submitted movie. It's not going to be like one of the old classic films. It's kind of a newer film. But still, it is a horror film, and it is Saturday Nightmares. So we'll do that next Saturday. I'm not going to tell you what it is until Saturday. So you'll just have to wait and see. But anyways, with that being said, I will see you guys on Tuesday, and it's goodbye for now.